recording to the cloud. It just makes it easier. Let's see who's coming in. Karen Ann is on her way. How are you guys all doing? You can unmute yourselves and say hi. Welcome, welcome, welcome to all.
Hello, welcome.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Good. Thank you.
Glad you all came back. It must have been an okay experience. And welcome some, let's see, Lynn, who's been coming in the Pal Talk room. It's been good to see you here. And yeah, everything is working. Yeah. All right. I got to keep an eye and make sure nobody comes in, wants to come in that hasn't done it. All right. There we go.
Hi, it's Dee, and I'm on mute.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi, Dee. Nice to see you. Nice to see you all. It's wonderful to have this little group together. So as every week, we get together on Thursday evenings, and right now we're reading the Manual for Teachers from A Course in Miracles. And we're in this section, the characteristics of a teacher of God. Oh, hey, there's Happy. Hi, Happy. Oh, he's so sweet. Happy is happy, you can tell. Oh, God love him. How sweet. Nothing sweeter than doggy kisses, that's for sure. So we are going through the Manual for Teachers, and we're in the characteristics. We just finished up the characteristic of trust, which was pretty informing as to, what it is that Jesus wants us to do and how he wants us to operate. And so this week, we start with honesty. And I can tell you, boy, when I first saw that, of course, everybody thinks they're an honest person. We all think we're honest people. But, honestly, I don't know about you all, but for me, I'm a liar so much of the time. I mean, not so much of the time, I'm just not being, completely honest about things, or, I'm trying to be, make people feel better. So I'll say things that really, I don't believe. Or I'm, I'm afraid of something, so I say things that, or think things that help me be less fearful, but are really not true, not really helpful. So and I when I first was reading about honesty, I was like, that's something that I think that scares most everybody. Is and I've been challenged. Try being wholly honest. Completely honest all the time. Try being completely honest all the time. And, for me personally, it's a pretty scary thing because I don't really know what's really true. And so, I'm making up a story about what I think is true. I'm going to turn in that so I'm not so sideways. I'm making up a story about what's true all the time. So, I could look at something and say, well, be honest with you. I think you would look better if you had, red hair, or, something like that. That's not honesty. That's just an opinion that I have. Or, if to be honest with you, I wish that, everybody that you personally wanted to save the earth just as much as I want to save the earth. That's not really honesty. That's just my opinion. And so, I think we have a hard time. I know I have a hard time really knowing what honesty is. And Dove, you have your hand up. Please speak up. If anybody who wants to, unmute yourself and say, speak up.
Yeah, well, actually, as we get into honesty, it's really saying that it's consistency. And my experience of you, Lynn, is that you're the most honest person I know. And I base that on consistency in course terms means that you're committed, that you're totally committed, and that your purpose is consistent. without you, we would not be here at ACIM Gather. You decided to come back to ACIM Gather and continue the purpose that Gather started many moons ago. So for me, that's what Jesus means by honesty, is that you are consistent in purpose, that you are committed. And I think that's true for almost everybody here. This is like a total commitment. That's honesty. That's this, whether you tell a white lie, that has nothing to do with honesty. That's the ego. Okay.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I went and if I'm the most honest person, then I take that as a compliment. But because there's lots of times I'm consistently both ways. I'm consistently taking care of things, and actually I'm always taking care of things because that's just I was made that way. So I guess it doesn't really that has nothing to do with me. That's just the way I am. So I don't know. I think everybody is. I think everybody is consistent to what they believe. But any other thoughts? I'm going to go ahead and put up the text so that everyone can see. Where did I put it? Right here. And I think I don't have to do anything else here. And there we go. There's the text from A Course in Miracles about honesty in the Manual for Teachers. Can everybody see that okay? Is it readable?
Yes, it's fine.
I try to make it big and bold because I've been having trouble with the other reading there. So honesty. Does anybody want to read? And if you're new here, everybody gets to talk and read and talk and anything, because we don't consider, there's nobody here that's a teacher. We're all the teacher. We're here to learn and grow as one rather than as one being with other people following along. So just because, this my meeting I started, blah, 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 I'm not the teacher. You're the teacher. That's what you're here for. So I'm depending on you to do it.
I'll start off.
Okay, good. Thanks, Deb.
Okay, honesty. Teacher's Manual, Section 4. I guess this is the part 2 of the 10-part series, 10-part section on the 10 characteristics of God's teachers. And just as a foreword, once you develop trust, the other 9 are given to you. Because once you develop trust that everything is perfect exactly the way it is, you need do nothing, you're perfectly cared for, everything else just naturally happens. You're relaxed. Consistency, honesty, you don't have to shift from one foot to the other like the ego does, depending on who he's talking to, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, what does it say here? All other traits of God's teachers rest on trust. So the other 9 of the 10 characteristics all are based in the bedrock of trust. Once you develop trust, everything else is given to you naturally. You don't have to do anything. Once that has been achieved, the others cannot fail to follow. Only the trusting, I love this, only the trusting can afford to be honest. Only the trusting. Yeah, because if you're not trusting, you're gonna change your mind every other day. I used to like this, but now I think I like that. There's no consistency there because you actually believe things are changing. In trust, you become changeless. That you are as God created you, changelessly in eternity. Your eternal will is one will with your Father who created you. So, no, it's not a matter of moving from day to day, wondering, well, today is a cloudy day, I don't know if I'm going to do that anymore. No, you are the sky, everything else is the weather. You are the sky, everything else. So the sky is totally consistent. It's simply infinite, eternal, and always perfect. Okay, once that has been achieved, the others cannot fail to follow. Only the trusting can afford honesty, for only they can see its value. Honesty does not apply only to what you say, does not apply only to what you say. The term actually means consistency. There is nothing that you say that contradicts what you think or do. No thought opposes any other thought. No act belies your word, and no word lacks agreement with another. Wow. I mean, that kind of puts you into blue sky territory. You don't have to watch for the clouds, the inclement weather coming. You don't have to watch the weather report. You are perfect exactly the way you are. And so is everybody else. That's what trust is. Trust is knowing that we're all equal. Keyword equal. Equality is the one condition necessary for peace. Peace is the goal of this course. Moving on, such are the truly honest. At no level are they in conflict with themselves. Therefore, it's impossible for them to be in conflict with anyone or anything. So, yeah, there's no conflict. Peace, equality means that peace is all-encompassing. Nothing opposes you. Nothing conflicts with you. You are the blue sky. And that's it on that paragraph. Are there any thoughts? Questions, thoughts, additions?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of point out, or to talk about that concept right there. That's our concept that says there's nothing you say that contradicts what you think or do. No thought opposes any other thought. No act belies your word, and no word lacks agreement with another. That's a huge thing there. I find myself, I'm consistent, all right, but I'm consistently political, worried about what's going to happen to the environment, thinking about, the children that are not being taken care of, thinking about all the sadness in the world. I'm consistently thinking that. At the same time, I'm consistently believing there is no world. This is what the course is here to teach me. And that somehow or the other, none of this here means anything. It's so, I may consistently be studying the course, practicing the course, doing the lessons, trying to, figure out what in the heck and how to live with this course. At the same time, I'm doing things that are just the opposite of what I'm saying. If there's no world, then why am I worried about, the environment? If there's no world, if nothing is true but heaven, why am I concerned about what happens to children or, whomever I decide that I want to feel sad about or think something bad is happening to? That consistency that comes about through truly practicing the course, eventually you have to come to a point where you have to make a decision. What is it that I really want to see? And when I'm worried about the world, I'm showing that I want to see things are wrong. I want to see things are broken. I want to see things are not the way I would want them to be. And you think, well, no, you don't want to see that. Well, if Jesus is telling me I can change my mind and see something different, and I keep looking and seeing victimhood and suffering, then I'm not using my mind the way Jesus is teaching me to use my mind. Does that make any sense, or does that just sound really out of line?
No, I'm actually glad that you brought that up, because it reminded me of a whole other spectrum, which I want to bring in here. Werner Erhard, who founded EST, and where I really got my real start. Without S, I could have never done the Course in Miracles. The basis of S was keeping your word, to be responsible, And one of the memes that came out of S is, if you keep your word, if you keep your agreements, life works. If you break your word, if you break your agreements, life sucks. And since then, I've always, I say to people, if I give you my word, I keep my word no matter what. I always keep my word, and that's consistency. You know, you don't dodge the bullet and and say, well, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Whatever your word is, you keep it.
Yeah. Anybody else have any thoughts about that?
I have a few thoughts on that. There was a time where I just was so tired of all of it, and when I say all of it, I mean all of my own BS. And I couldn't take it anymore, and I decided I wasn't going to take it anymore. So I made a decision to be honest, to live honest, and I decided at that point that I wasn't going to accept anybody else's BS either. And in the beginning, way back then, in 2005, I would call people out on it, and that became a bit of a problem. And then I realized that wasn't the way I wanted to handle this. But raising my kids and all that, they know that when I say something, when I say I'm going to do something, I do it. They have no question in that. And one of the best things that I learned back then, and that I brought with me, and that I still use today, is the word maybe. The word maybe doesn't lock me into a commitment that I'm not ready to make. Whereas before, I would make the commitment and fail, and I'd have all good intentions of showing up for it, but I'd fail to show up for it. So I was being inconsistent, as Dove's talking about. And when I decided I wasn't going to lock myself into those, I wasn't going to sign those verbal contracts anymore, not with my kids, not at work, nowhere. Really, my life started to improve. So, and since then, don't get me wrong, I fall short, but I don't lock myself into those commitments anymore. And that I don't fall short in. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Yeah, that's really, because we don't know the future. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's supposed to happen. We're certainly not wise enough to know, what should happen or how it should be. We just think we know what should happen and how it should be. We think somehow that, it should be something other than what it appears. And that's why when I was talking about stuff like, worrying about the environment or worrying about, what's happening to other people, I don't know their life. I don't know the future. I don't know anything. All I know is what has been my experience so far. And, I think in a lot of ways, like most people, I want to keep it on the status quo. I don't want things to change radically one way or the other. So, I want to try to intervene with stuff to make sure that everything stays the way I'm used to it. And, I think being honest is really letting things be as they are and not trying to be the controller of my fate, but just accepting what comes and actually being grateful for it, because I've gotten more wonderful experiences and joyful experiences from just relaxing and letting things be than I ever got by trying to make things the way I wanted them to be. And so, honesty a lot of times just says, no, I'm not going to make a commitment for something for the future. I'm not going to say this is what's going to happen because I don't know. And, I want what's ever the best thing, no matter how it works out. Anybody else have any thoughts about this?
Yeah, this is Dee. I'm thinking perfect consistency is pointing to perfect consistency in God and in truth. So if I'm loving and if what's the most loving response to someone, that to me would be consistency. Like if I don't care for the dress that they're wearing and I say they look lovely, to me that's consistency in being loving.
Yes.
And I think you hit on it right there. Loving, what is the loving thing?
What's a loving thing to do? Right. So that I'm not insulting someone and I'm not giving them a guilt trip or I'm not trying to change them. To me, that's what the consistency is pointing to.
Right.
Consistency in me giving love, in me being loving.
Yeah.
And appreciating everyone equally.
Yeah. So we're speaking about purpose, purpose. So if my purpose is truth, if my purpose is peace, if my purpose is love, exactly what you say, that is consistent. It doesn't matter that your ego says, well, I don't like green or red. That has nothing to do with it. In other words, this person is a child of God. They are perfect exactly as God created them. And I want to tell them that they're perfect, period.
And see them that way for myself.
And see them that way, yeah.
So that takes a huge commitment. That's kind of what we talked about, what we talk about all the time is, seeing our brothers as the Christ. And so if you see your brother as a Christ, what would you change? What would you want to be different? How would you want them to be different? How could you want them to be different if what you saw was the Christ and you consistently saw your brothers as the Christ, consistently saw yourself as the Christ, then your choices would be easy every time. You wouldn't have a choice because all things would just be perfect. That's just, it's deciding I like everything and there's nothing I object to because the ego objects to stuff. The Holy Spirit just accepts. That's forgiveness.
I think acceptance is the easiest way to honesty. And in Lesson 268 says, I accept all things exactly as they are. That is honesty. Acceptance is honesty. Acceptance is also trust. Trust, I mentioned that today in our sharing. Acceptance, forgiveness, and trust, I think are, even though the different words, Webster has different meanings, they are identical in their spiritual DNA.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that.
Can I share?
Yes.
Yeah,
please.
sure.
So something that's helped me a lot is, and it's out of the Bible, but it's a verse, and I just looked it up on the internet because I didn't know by heart what it was. But I think it's Philippians 4:8, and it says, "Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put it into practice." And I've thought about that verse before. I didn't know where it was until just now, but the way I use that verse is when I open my mouth to another human being, before I open my mouth, I try to focus in on those things. My ego may want to throw a judgment out, and that happens inside a lot. But, you know, trying to catch it before it comes out of my mouth and make sure my heart is good when I open my mouth. That's a challenge, because like at work or something, you know, you get engulfed by the day. But that's kind of how I've been practicing that. That's all.
Very good. Thank you.
That's beautiful. And that's it exactly. It's something, it's the acronym WAIT, WAIT. Why am I talking? Who am I teaching? Really just remembering who is the person that is represented here. That's why we say that prayer, I'm here to represent him who sent me. No, that's exactly what you're doing there.
I just want to say, I read in a book once that acceptance is heaven and resistance is hell.
That's
And
right.
I never forgot those two sentences. It was a book about meditation or something. It's a long time ago, but that sentence just stayed with me for always.
That is correct, Corinne. Actually, resistance is the source of all pain and suffering. All. Whatever I resist persists, and it's the source of pain and suffering in this world. Whatever you can accept frees you. And I always think of that paragraph 18 in lesson 135. If I defend myself, I attack myself. And it's 27 paragraphs long. And one of them is my go-to paragraph, paragraph 18. It says, what can you not accept if you but knew that everything that seems to happen to you, all events, past, present, and even to come, are gently planned for you by one whose only purpose is your good. Yeah, acceptance is a biggie.
Yeah, it is. And Delvin, you were saying resistance, it's actually the cause of physical pain too. When our muscles resist, when our body resists, that's what causes physical pain. If you could just not resist anything, your muscles wouldn't ache, you wouldn't clench your jaw, you wouldn't be, it really, you would feel a lot better if you could be not in resistance, to be in acceptance.
And the reason that we resist comes from that line that Jesus says, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Choose one. You can't have both. So when we dig our heels in and we insist that we're right at the expense of someone else's wrong, that's the beginning of falling into a very deep, dark hole and saying, geez, I really don't like it here. Well, you have a choice. Do you want to be right about nothing or do you want to be happy? Obviously, we all want to be happy. It's our will. It's God's will for our happiness. That's lesson 101. God's will for me is perfect happiness. No, I don't want God's will. I want to be right.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Karen? Okay. I actually had a weird experience on Facebook that kind of has to do with the topic, where I was in a group, which was I Heart British TV. And I recommended a TV series, and all these people were commenting, and they're saying, oh, I love it too, and some said, oh, I hate it, and then a few were asking questions like, would you say this is fantasy or sci-fi? So one lady asked the question, is this sci-fi? And so I put no, and this other woman at the same time put, yes, it is. And then I guess the other woman saw my reply and got angry and put, really, Karen, Ann, or, if this isn't sci-fi, what would you call it then? And so I was like, okay, I'm not, I'm not going to fall into the trap of like trying to be right and like defending myself and everything. But I just replied, well, I would call it mystical. And she's like, really? Blah, blah. This is not mystical or spiritual. So then I put, well, you could be right. God knows I'm no expert on, mysticism to that effect. And she then responded with like a big smiley face, and, but I could have, the old Karen would have been like, well, how do you define sci-fi? And then like just give my examples of why I think it's not sci-fi and express, my desire to be correct. But I decided I'm going to shut this whole thing down because I really have no patience. I just don't want to argue with people. I'd rather be happy than right, so anyway.
Very good. Thank you, Karen.
Sure.
Yes, and boy, those arguments on Facebook are my big demise. That's where I get to see my true honesty here, my true consistency is, what I decide to attack my brothers about this week on Facebook, which unfortunately, I mean, I have really stopped doing that like I used to. I did that consistently for so long. I just thought it was right. And come to understand that it doesn't help anything at all. So yeah, just letting them be right, and you get a big old smiley face from them. That's
Yeah. I go to lesson 1.
Yep.
It doesn't mean anything. What am I talking about? It doesn't mean anything. It's meaningless.
Exactly. Okay, so I think we kind of hashed that. Kind of got around to what we think is consistency, what honesty is. Kind of got around to a good understanding, at this point to what that is. Who wants to read paragraph 2?
I will. Okay. Paragraph 2, I'm going to read it from my book here. The peace of mind which the advanced teachers of God experience is largely due to their perfect honesty. It is only the wish to deceive that makes the war. No one at one with himself can even conceive of conflict. Conflict is the inevitable result of self-deception, and self-deception is dishonesty. There is no challenge to a teacher of God. Challenge implies doubt, and the trust, oops, somebody else read, I got a train coming.
Continue. I have plenty of trains coming. Continue.
I've made peace with the train. Okay. There is no challenge to a teacher of God. Challenge implies doubt, and the trust on which God's teachers rest secure makes doubt impossible. Therefore, they can only succeed. In this, as in all things, they are honest. They can only succeed because they never do their will alone. They choose for all mankind, for all the world and all things in it, for the unchanging and unchangeable beyond appearances, and for the Son of God and his Creator. How could they not succeed? They choose in perfect honesty, sure of their choice as of themselves. And I have no comment.
Does anybody have any comments on this? This is a pretty big bunch of stuff here.
So this is, to me, this is reinforcing the perfect honesty and trust, which is to rely upon Spirit totally.
Very good. Very good. Yes. Thank you, Dee.
The consistency of relying on trust.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Yeah. You're either into self-denial, self-deception, or you're into total acceptance. I have to take this call.
Oh, okay, that's fine. You can mute yourself. And so
All
yes,
right.
mute yourself, please. Or I'll mute him. Okay, good. All right. So yeah, this is about being honest with yourself. No one at one with himself can even conceive of conflict. So that conflict, you know, what is it that causes conflict in our mind, and how is it that we become conflicted? You know, this is something that you know, is kind of an everyday ongoing challenge for me. You know, he says there's no challenge to a teacher of God. So I haven't got up to that point because I am constantly being challenged by my own thinking. And, you know, I've come fairly recently to a point where whenever thoughts come into my mind that, you know, maybe judgment about something, or ideas of how things should be, or how things are not right or need to be fixed, or somebody needs to do something different than what they're doing now. Whenever those thoughts come into my mind, I have to ask myself the question, where did this idea come from? Where did I get the idea that this person should be doing something different? Where did I get the idea that this is not the way things should be? Or, you know, where did I get the idea this is the way things should be? You know, you know, when the ego, it always speaks first, which is what Jesus tells us. And it always tells us the first thing that comes to our mind about any situation, unless we're really consistent, like this is talking, the first thing that comes to my mind when anything comes up is what the world taught me about it, what the ego taught me about it. And I recognize how much of my whole belief system about who I am, who you are, what's going on here, all have to do with what somebody taught me or what I learned from my experience in life about it. And Jesus is saying that all that teaching, you know, is resign as your own teacher because you've been taught, you know, incorrectly here. You really need to stop looking at how things the way you think they should be, and allow them to be something different in your mind, and be okay with it being something different in your mind. You know, be okay with it. You know, when I recognize that the ideas I have about how people should be and what should be happening, you know, I mean, I can go into specific things like, you know, the children at the border. You know, I'm real upset about that. You know, and being real upset about, you know, children being taken away from their parents at the border. You know, that's a thing to me that is, you know, just really something to fight for or fight over. But then you know, I look at it and think, these are the kinds of things that go on all the time and have gone on all the time in the world, in everywhere we've ever lived. Human beings have always been doing terrible things to other human beings. And we've gotten used to it to the point where we even pay the government to do it for us. And so, just because I'm upset about it doesn't mean that it's anything better or worse than has ever been. It's always been this way. And my idea of how it should be is really not important, because it's the world. And being invested in the world is being invested in the world of judgment and fear and form and all that kind of stuff. So he's asking us to step up above that and to see things from a different perspective, where the entire world is all the same, and we can allow the Holy Spirit to show it to us in a different way, and we're not going to be upset about what we think is happening, because we recognize it's not really happening at all. And until you get to that point where you can just forgive every situation and recognize that it's not what's really happening here, then you're going to be always afraid. You're always going to be afraid, because everything's going to be wrong all the time. So Jesus is not asking us to accept wrong things. Jesus is asking us to look at what's real and what's not, and to recognize that that stuff is a product of my own imagination. It may not seem like it when I'm looking at it, but it's a projection of my own thinking, the world I see. And so I need to think differently, and I'll see a different world. That's what I'm expecting anyway. Anybody have any thoughts about that?
Yes, I think that for me, whenever I've been upset about any situation in the world or whatever, and sometimes I could even have a physical, stomach pain or something from, with something very serious. But thanks to A Course in Miracles teaching that it's always about me, whatever the upset is, I have read other things also with other teachers that mention, to go into yourself and your feeling and ask the Holy Spirit to help me see, what is this about? What is there in me that's making me feel that? And usually it takes me back to an old memory or some kind of thing that is unhealed still inside of me. And I have practiced that and come up with some things that, I would not have maybe remembered if I did not connect with Holy Spirit to help me do that. And there's different layers to it, but definitely the process has been very helpful in just helping me to release some of that. And of course, I'm not up to the complete peace of mind about things yet, but I think for me, it's a process and it's a gradual, just like I wrote the book that I was talking about, it's called Gradual Awakening. And I'm realizing for me that being at peace with the world and things that are happening is got to be a gradual thing for me.
Thank you, Corrine, for that. Anybody else have any thoughts about this?
So what I've gotten out of this is the realization that that I could be consistent in it's asking me to be consistent in which teacher I'm choosing, the ego or the Holy Spirit.
Yes, exactly. And when you consistently choose the Holy Spirit every time, then you don't have to be afraid. I mean, there's nothing to fear. That's what these lessons are telling us.
And the only time I'm in conflict is when I'm choosing the ego. You can't be in conflict when I choose the right teacher.
That's right. Anybody else have any thoughts?
Yeah, just real quick on a situation like, down at the border that you mentioned. When you look at it from a worldly point of view, it's absolutely terrible and it's heart-wrenching. But when I find myself suffering about a situation like this, I ask myself, what is my suffering doing for this situation? Is it bringing anything useful to the situation? Me sitting here in my office suffering about the kids at the border is not bringing anything useful to the situation. So what I do in a situation like this, and it doesn't have to be this exact issue, it can be countless nameless issues, is just try and remember, and the pain comes in quick to remind me to bring forgiveness to this situation. And what is it I'm forgiven? It's my thoughts about this situation. So I try and be consistent with that as well, and it does work for me. So
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, I agree with you on that for sure. If, there's nothing I can, that I think a lot of people, I know I used to have a terrible time. I would stay awake at night and worry about things that absolutely had nothing I could do about any of it. And, fear for people that, I mean, when it comes right down to it, you begin to realize that, everybody's in the same situation. We're all suffering. We're all fighting a hard battle, as Plato or Philo, whoever said that. Be kind because everybody you meet is fighting a hard battle. And if there's anything that I can do to bring more love, as who was saying about bringing the love, I mean, that's really what you have to ask the question: what would love do? What would love think? How would love see this? And, because those children at the border are the Christ, every single one of them. And the people who are taking care of them are the Christ. And the Border Patrol guys are the Christ. And I mean, that's what, you can't condemn one and think the other is innocent. You have to see them all the same. And they've all got to be innocent in your mind, because they're just actors doing a scene that we wrote. The script is written, we wrote this thing, a long time ago when we had a tiny mad idea, and it's just going along with our story that we wrote. So, to come to a point where I'm not following the story anymore, and I want to see what the Holy Spirit has to say about these situations, because otherwise, I feel helpless and I feel hopeless, and that's exactly where the ego wants you, in helplessness and hopelessness, feeling like there's nothing you can do. The thing that you can do is see the Christ in all of it and recognize the truth, and that will shift it. It shifts me all the time, but I have to work on it. I can't just, I haven't got to the point where it's automatic, the miracle that is a habit. Getting closer, but not there yet. Anybody else have any thoughts about this?
Yeah. I just want to say on the word worry, Norman Vincent Peale reminds us that worry comes from the Old English word wrangle, which means to strangle. And to strangle is to take your breath away. And breath is from the original Latin or Greek maybe for spirit. So it squeezes your spirit. The spirit gets hurt. Not that the spirit can be hurt, but it's pushed down by worry. So as he says, don't ever worry. Of course, I'm not going to tell you his Wednesday afternoon worry jar story, but basically, all worry is of the ego. Period.
Exactly. Yes. So I'm just going to reread the paragraph. I don't know, we might have time to start on tolerance. if you guys want to move on, or if you think we've got enough out of this for now. Oh, let's go to tolerance. It's only one paragraph.
I can read that, Lynn.
Okay, good. Let's hear it.
God's teachers do not judge. To judge is to be dishonest, for to judge is to assume a position you do not have. Judgment without self-deception is impossible. Judgment implies that you have been deceived in your brothers. How then could you not have been deceived in yourself? Judgment implies a lack of trust, and trust remains the bedrock of the teacher of God's whole thought system. Let this be lost, and all his learning goes. Without judgment, are all things equally acceptable? For who could judge otherwise? Without judgment, are all men brothers? For who is there who stands apart? Judgment destroys honesty and shatters trust. No teacher of God can judge and hope to learn. Yeah, I mean, if we're all one, if we're, to judge anyone, you're judging yourself. It's actually kind of ridiculous, and I don't know. I think we just had a discussion about judgment at work yesterday. Somebody said that she was disabling her Facebook account because of people judging everything like she posted and everything. And somebody, I think it might have been me, I said something like, to judge somebody else for their opinion or whatever, to me, it's like saying, well, I like chocolate ice cream, you like vanilla. What's wrong with you? How could you like vanilla? Like it's something that's, like a total preference or whatever, which, I think even Ken Wapnick said preferences are fine, but judgments are, it's a different thing entirely. But I know that every time I judge somebody, I have physical symptoms of it. I feel very tense. My stomach hurts. I can't sleep. I worry, like I was talking about. And so I know if I'm not feeling at peace, then I'm operating from ego standpoint and not from spirit. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. To judge is to be dishonest, he says, because to judge is to assume a position you do not have. I think he's kind of laughing at us there. I mean, who do you think you are?
There's a passage in Job in the Bible where Job is like railing, at God, like, how could you do this to me after he's, been given all these horrible situations in his life. And there's this passage I'm probably really mangling it up, but it says something like, how could you judge? Do you know the beginning of the world and the end of the world and everything that is happened or will happen from the end of time? Like, did you create the world? Just basically saying, like, who are you to judge? You don't know anything. Basically. So I always liked that passage. I thought it was kind of cool.
That is pretty funny. Did somebody else have something?
Yeah, it might have, I'm not sure if it's coming from Emmett Fox, but it might be that if we change all the 10 commandments from thou shall not, they really should read thou cannot. So we cannot judge. It's not that thou shall not, thou cannot.
Right, because we don't know.
Right.
And that's why we're not in a position to say this is good or this is bad or this is right or wrong. We just don't know.
Yeah. Projection makes perception is really saying the only one that I'm judging is myself. Whenever you judge anyone, you're really speaking about yourself. That's one of my most favorite things. I said you can write this on my tombstone. I'm always speaking about myself. No matter what you say about anyone or anything, you're always speaking about yourself. Projection makes perception. The idea that you're assuming a position that you do not have, I always see that we are one. One means we are all one mind. How could you be outside? You'd have to judge. You'd have to be outside of the one mind and look back and say, well, I don't like that, or I like this. But that's impossible. What is one is always one. How can you judge yourself? Basically, that's it. You can only judge yourself. There's only one of us.
Yeah, and he says, without judgment are all things equally acceptable.
Yeah.
For who could judge otherwise? Equality is the whole thing. Everything is equally the same. And that's why you can't say one is better than another. Anybody else have any thoughts about this? I'm glad we read this one. I think that's going to be my watchword for the rest of the week now, tolerance. Because that's really what it's all about. Just, I'm not in a position to judge. That's why I can't say that's the best thing or the worst thing. It may seem terrible to me, but I don't know what the future is.
It's so difficult, though. I mean, just count how many times you judge in a 24-hour period. And it might be a fleeting judgment, but there's like got to be hundreds.
Oh yeah, there are.
I mean, it's tough. It's like we use it as a coping mechanism here, really.
Well, yeah, because we don't feel strength in ourselves. If we were strong, if we were trusting, then we would have no reason to judge. We'd just say everything is okay. And, no matter what happens, it's, for the best. And that would be a really happy way to live.
Yeah, and it's the ego's walking stick. Every step the ego takes is basically a judgment.
Anybody else have anything they'd like to share? Yes, please. Go ahead.
Hi, I would like to say that I think it's really important that at the end it says that by judging and by not having tolerance, we are destroying the first two principles that we've just spoken about. Honesty and trust are shattered and destroyed. And wow, we're not getting ahead very fast that way, are we? By losing number 3, we lose 1 and 2 as well. Kind of throws it all out.
But notice that once you develop trust, the rest are given to you naturally. So we are only responsible for the trust. And we're not talking about 99% trust. We're talking about total trust. So if you totally trust, everything else happens naturally. You are totally honest, totally tolerant, totally gentle. I love the next line. Harm is impossible for God's teachers. They can neither harm nor be harmed. Can you imagine that? When you totally trust, you are totally gentle. You cannot be harmed, nor can you harm. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine how amazing that is?
That is amazing. And Jesus says to us, now teach no one teach no brother that he has harmed you or can harm you. I don't forget exactly what it says, but it's like saying to everybody, there's nothing you can do to hurt me, and I accept all from you. Oh, what a different life that would be.
Yeah, that's turn the other cheek, basically.
Yep, that's beautiful. Well, it looks like our hour is about up here, and I just wanted to thank everybody for coming in, everybody who participated. It's lovely to have you. And of course, we are ACIM Gather for A Course in Miracles, and we are part of the One Mind Foundation, which Dove runs. And so grateful to have you all here. We're here every Thursday evening, and thanks for coming in. I love you all. You can unmute and say goodbye.
Thanks,
But
everyone.
just one question.
Yes,
Yes.
Tom.
One question. Lynn, did you say that you have other study groups here on Zoom that you do? And if so, can I have the schedule or something? So
We
that
don't have any others that are like this, but we
Oh,
have
no.
a couple of other groups that come in and we sponsor. We allow them to, or what do you call, host them.
Well,
But we're open to have more.
well, actually, we do deep dive into the text on Sunday and on Tuesday. Those are Sunday morning and Tuesday morning, but they're not on Zoom. They are right in the gather
Pal
room.
Talk.
Yeah,
And Pal
Pal
Talk,
Talk,
yeah.
right.
Gotcha. Sunday morning, what time is that, Dove?
Sunday morning at 9:30. We have a new time, 9:30 to 11. And on Tuesday from 8:30 to 10.
Okay, Tuesday doesn't work, but 9:30 might. So, but thank you.
Yeah.
Very cool. And yeah, you can go to our schedule. It's acimgather.us, ACIM Gather Us. And it has a schedule, and you can also have the link to the radio and instructions how to get on Pal Talk if you want to come in Pal Talk. So all that stuff is there in our website.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
Love you all. Thank you all for coming in, everybody.
Thank you.
See you all
Thank
next
you.
week.
Good night.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.
Thank you.
All right, and close the room. And for